I'm ready to go. Let's start off with some questions with Mark's question. He says, what are the Money Guys' thoughts on saving for a second house in a high-yield savings account for 7 to 10 years? Or would you dollar cost average into the market and pull it out when needed for the second house purchase?
All right, Brian, I'll start this one. I'm going to assume that this second house, you're meaning like for yourself, like a vacation property, like a beach house, lake house, something like that. Not like an investment property or something like that. I have my own personal biases when it comes to owning second properties or multiple homes. I'm not going to speak to that. But if you know that your timeline is 7 to 10 years out, and you know that that's a goal you want to achieve and accomplish, I don't think that it's an either or on this question. I don't think it's, okay, do I build cash for down payment? Or do I dollar cost average into like low cost index funds inside of a brokerage account? If it were me trying to save for that goal, I would probably do both, because 7 to 10 years is far enough out that it allows me enough time to let my dollars work. Now, I don't want to just go, all the way out there and have all the dollars that I'm planning on using for that capital expense in the market, but I think it's okay if I had half of that money there and then the other half that I'm building in cash so that I can make a down payment, or if I'm building, or I can begin searching. So that way, at least I have some options and some choices as I move closer and closer from that 7 to 10 year time frame into that 3 to 4 to 5 year time frame. I'd probably do a combo of both.
I love, we really do share a brain, because I'd already written down balanced. I was already thinking 50-50. Yep. So I'm like, dagummit, he just nailed that thing. So way to stick the landing. But here, there are two things that immediately also popped into mind. Is I would challenge Mark. I want you to know, how firm are you on the 7 to 10 year part? Because that's the part that gives you the freedom to actually invest a portion of this. Because I don't want you to tell me it's 7 to 10 years, but then you're willing to if the right deal came your way, you'd be willing to jump in 3 years, because that's a completely different scenario. And I even want to cause a little chaos in this discussion by saying real estate is one of those things where a lot of times you will get your best way to have appreciation. Now, a second home, hopefully you're doing this for these great memories you think you're going to have, because this is not a ideal financial situation. I'll get into that in a minute. But I'm never going to, if everybody's doing everything they're supposed to on the financial order of operations, steps 1 through 7, and one of their big long-term goals is in step 8 to have a second home, I'm all for it. But be aware that a lot of times in real estate, secondary homes are the first houses that if we hit any type of chaos in the financial markets, unemployment goes up, real estate will get beaten up, and the first homes that typically hit the markets are those secondary homes. Yeah. And guess what that means? When everybody dumps their houses at the same time, their vacation properties, lots of volatility in that pricing. So always, part of this, a balanced approach is that I would probably be thinking about this, and maybe instead of a 50-50, you want to do 60-40 cash, 40% investment. It depends on really how flexible you are on the timing, just because you need to be prepared, if you're really dead set on this, is to not just set 7 to 10 years, but pay attention to valuations, because real estate, especially on the vacation homes, you can have wild swings. I mean, right now, everybody's feeling fat and happy and very proud of their decisions. Think about the state of Florida. If you look at coastal property and other things in Florida, they've made a fortune. But if you go back to the financial crisis, the Great Recession, and it was not even 2008, it was not 2009, it was really around 2010, 2011 is where you saw it really hit a crescendo, which is well beyond when we had the financial crisis. Yep. But that's when you couldn't give away real estate in Florida back during that time. So it's just, that's what I would pay attention to, how hard that 7 to 10 years is versus is it 3 to 5 years if you have the right deal, because that will impact your allocation. And then realize also the research shows, and I hate to be the cold water, if you go look at Dr. Stanley's research with Stop Acting Rich, a lot of times he talked all throughout that book that rich people don't own boats, rich people don't own second homes. It's just, be careful. And then I always challenge people from a behavioral standpoint. Do you really want to go on vacation in the same place every year? Because I've owned a vacation property that I owned it with a few other CPAs and a dentist. And we thought we were going to make $1 gazillion on this thing down in Florida. And then we thought, because in the brochure, you think you're also going to take your family down there and it's going to be paid for. But the reality is you never get to use it during peak times. The times you do go down there are off season, and you're usually repairing all the things that people who are renting your property have torn it up. There's just a lot of things that I want you to look beyond the brochure and make sure this really is what you want to do. Because if you want to own a secondary home, I wouldn't think about it in the Airbnb way. I would think about it, can I own this house outright? Because if I ever buy another vacation property, it will not be rented because
it'll be just for you.
Yes, and my family, just because
and my family.
Because if you have to rent it to pay for it, it's. I mean, some people are going to tell you I've made a fortune off of this, and maybe you can. But here's when I knew that I wasn't set for this. Two quick stories. So I see we're already 5 minutes. The mattress pad. I think a good mattress pad is important to put on a bed.
Super important. You
think that until they steal it. And then you're like, son of a gun, they stole the mattress pad. Who steals a mattress? That's gross. Why would you steal? Then you put in nice pillows. And then you go down there and you're like, they stole the pillows. You're like, son of a gun. And then a couch should last 5 years. You would think a couch would last 5 years unless you put it in a rental property. And then you're like, were they wrestling off this thing? Were they jumping off of it? Because the couches have to be replaced every 1 to 2 years. And then here's the final nail in the coffin for vacation property. We had a leak in the commode where it was a drip leak.
Okay.
You would think the cleaning crew would probably report this. No. You would think one resident or tenant that was renting the property from you, they would report that this thing had a drip leak. Nobody reported. I guess they'd all just put a towel down while they were there. Well, guess what happened? Over time, this turned into black mold behind the door. Do you know how expensive it is to rip out walls to repair a $20 repair turned into a multi-$1,000 repair? This is the type of stuff that happens with secondary homes. I know I sound like cold water, and there's going to be people who be like, hey, Brian just doesn't like real estate. No, I love real estate. I'm just telling you, learn from the guy who's been there, done that, and make sure you've measured twice, cut once, and do this for the right reasons.
And look, if you stole his mattress pad or his pillows, will you give them back, please?
Oh, man. Can you tell the anger there?
Will you give them back,
next time you go to a vacation rental and you sleep on, man, this is the most uncomfortable mattress pad I've ever laid on, or the pillows are flat as they can be. It's because all the people before you that have stolen it, that have made that owner, that landlord, or the person that owns this realize, I can't do this because these weirdos just steal the stuff.